So one day I was looking at some games to review and I came across a Let's Play of Chaser by Inside Gaming. Now watching their Let's Play series, they really tore the game apart and picked apart its flaws. I was a little confused to see how they hated the game so much because I remember when I played this back in the day, I had a pretty damn good time. Chaser was released in 2003 and was developed by Cauldron and published by Joe Wood Productions. While I do admit that I have enjoyed my experience with Chaser in the past, is it still worth playing today? Like always, we will take a look as we analyze the graphics, audio, and of course, the gameplay. Now let's talk about the graphics, and since this game was made in 2003, those are the standards that we will be using. When you first play this game, you'll notice there was a lot of attention to detail, especially concerning the environments. The lighting is where the game really shines, literally. Just like what you see right here as the light is hitting the snow and that nice snow effect it gives, it looks really good. This is not the only segment where you see really good lighting, it's also later in the game and many other segments as well. Especially here when you're on Mars, the orange hue and the lighting really makes you feel like you're on this planet. Visually, the levels are varied, so you're always exploring something new. Also, the way bullets destroy glass is really a sight to behold. It is really well done, and I sometimes have a little bit too much fun destroying the windows. The guns are also nicely crafted, and the character models are done fairly well. However, I do admit that the animations, especially for the cutscenes, look very odd, and the lip syncing is beyond bad. There's also constant clipping as well. However, the game does run at a smooth 60 frames per second and rarely ever slowed down. And that brings the final score to the graphics an 8.5 out of 10. While the lighting is well done, the scope of everything and the environments look good. The stiff animations as well as the bad lip syncing during the cutscenes really deteriorate from the score. And now let's talk about the audio. Now the first thing I would like to talk about are the sound effects, because every gun sounds very satisfying. Especially with the shotgun, every hit feels impactful and the sound really resonates through you. The music, however, is a mixed bag. Sometimes it sounds like generic sci-fi music, which it does most of the time, and other times it has some really memorable songs. However, it's kind of a matter of taste because I know a lot of people who like the music in this game, but I just can't really get myself into it. However, one thing that is bad is the voice acting, especially from Chaser. Just listen to this.
Hey, bartender. Whiskey and ice. If there are even a few functioning brain cells in that big bald head of yours, you'll get out of here as fast as you can.
You don't get it, Chaser. Your death will reinforce my new position. Everybody will see Valero's Avenger in me, the successor.
The voice acting is nowhere near the craptastic levels of Empire Earth 3, but it's still pretty bad. So with all things considered, my final score will be a 7 out of 10 for the audio. As I stated previously, the sound effects are very well done, and the music sometimes is good, but the voice acting is really bad. It's not terrible, but it's pretty bad. Now finally, let's talk about the gameplay. Now I understand many of you would like to jump in the game right away, but I certainly recommend the tutorial so you get used to some of the mechanics, especially the jumping mechanics. So the story begins and you play as the role of John Chaser. He just woke up and just like almost every video game cliche, he has no clue who the hell he is. So when you wake up, you'll realize that the space station that you're on is under attack and you need to get the hell out of there. Honestly, the game starts off pretty strong. While you have no clue what the hell is going on, you feel that there's a lot of weight behind this as the ship is blowing up, being under attack, and you're mowing through enemies. The game is pretty much a first-person shooter, so it's very similar to games like Quake, Doom, and many other titles of that nature. The gunplay is very fast-paced and exciting. The weapons are a joy to use, and there's a huge variety of them. While they kind of somewhat mimic real-life weapons since they are projectile weapons and not like crazy laser weapons, each weapon is satisfying to use as each can be used for different situations. For example, the submachine gun and the shotgun are better for close range encounters, while the assault rifle is better for mid to long range fights. At first, you really want to play the game to figure out Chaser and what the ultimate goal is at the end of the day. Why he's here, what mission he has to accomplish, and if he'll ever accomplish it at the end of the day. However, you do notice a lot of chinks in the armor as you play through it more and more. One of these problems is the AI. The AI is very inconsistent in this game. One mission, the enemies can kill you from miles away, while others they struggle to deal with you in close quarters. One mission, the enemies can kill you from miles away, while other ones they struggle to deal with you even in point blank range. Another huge flaw in this game is the level designs. Each level is very linear, but it is never clear where exactly you're supposed to go. What I'm showing you now is just one example of the very confusing level design. Here I'm trying to find my way inside the base. I can't go the regular way, but instead I have to go through a building that's a few feet away, but you will never notice this at first unless you walk around. Then you're supposed to climb up the building to find the specific floor. Then you're supposed to climb up the platform to reach the base. I wouldn't mind doing all this, but there's exactly 0 hints telling you this is what you have to do. There are some platforming segments within each level, and these are easily the weak points of Chaser. Your character can't really jump too high, and you always need to be sprinting when you make a jump, or you'll just fall on the ground. Moving up ladders is also very inconsistent since you're always sliding all over the place, even if you're climbing a ladder straight up or straight down. I think climbing straight down a ladder though is worse since your character is always sliding all over the place, even if you're not using the sprint button. The game tries to divvy itself up by offering different types of levels instead of the same first-person shooter fare. Honestly, while I do commemorate their effort, all these missions are pretty lackluster, especially the stealth one. It's very uninvolving as you're just crouching and moving along when you're told to do so. There's a sniper mission which I found to be somewhat enjoyable. I'm not really a sniper expert or sniper aficionado, however you want to say it, so this kind of was okay to me. The segment where you get to use an exoskeleton on Mars was a big disappointment. Half of the time your enemies were like 20 miles away, so you didn't really see them, and it was just overall unsatisfying. The submarine segment, or the segment when you're underwater, went on for way too long. It should have just been one level and that's it, not 2 levels. Honestly, the whole game can be summed up like that. It's just way too long. There's way too many missions that I would have wanted to see just cut out from the game completely. One example is this payback mission, where you have to kill one of your friends who betrayed you. Now that's all well and good, but you literally spent half of the level just trying to get to him, and 90% of the time you're not fighting anyone. You're just walking through platforms and walking to dead ends. So let's talk about Mars, since getting my ass to Mars was the reason why I kept playing this game. The game takes about 8 to 10 hours, give or take, just to reach to this place. So I was thinking that going to Mars was going to be awesome. The game was going to fire on all cylinders. Well, I was actually completely wrong. It was a disappointment right off the bat, since the first thing you have to do is run away from people. While I do enjoy the aesthetics of Mars and the futuristic aspect of the game, it's really a disappointment knowing I have to navigate through pretty much a maze just to figure out where the hell I'm supposed to be going, what doors can open, what doors can't open, and getting shot at the same time. Which, by the way, I don't have full armor and health since your life does not recover in every mission. Only certain missions will your life recover. Now, I don't know if that's a glitch or if that's just a design choice. Either way, I don't like it. The only real highlight of Mars is when you're storming the base. Things are getting blown up and it actually looks very fantastic. This is a really good set piece. It should have been like this with fast-paced, high-octane action instead of trying to slow down and become a platformer to vary up the gameplay. There are also a bunch of weird glitches as I was playing the stealth mission and I looked into the door and it was like this weird aesthetic going on. Even worse, sometimes you'll get stuck in a place by missing a jump and you can't get out, so you pretty much have to load a game. So enough with the single player, let's talk about everything else. Here in the options you get to pick your character for multiplayer, the difficulty, your crosshair, subtitles, and a few other options. Now when it comes to the multiplayer, I would love to talk about it. There was this mode called Shock Troops, which I had a lot of fun with back in the day, but I can't talk about it now since I can't really play with anyone since nobody really plays this game anyways. For the gameplay, Chaser starts off really strong. However, it quickly runs out of steam, especially towards the end. The conclusion is also very unsatisfying, which I will elaborate more on during the closing thoughts. There are also many other nitpicks that I have with the game, but if I continue, this will be a 30-minute review. So I'll just end it here and give my final score for the gameplay. So with all things considered, the gameplay gets a 6 out of 10. The gameplay would have been a 4 if it didn't start off as strong as it did. It shows a few more flashes every now and then, but it's not consistent enough to really warrant me to play more. And now for the closing thoughts, and what I want to talk about is the story. The reason why I wait to the end to talk about the story is because I believe story and gameplay are separate. However, I'm just gonna come out right and say it, this is one of the worst stories in video game history. The main problems involve the confusing plot, the unoriginal story, the underdeveloped characters, the sloppy pacing, and worst of all, one of the worst endings in video game history. I mean, holy cow is this ending bad. I won't show you it here, but it pulls out so many plot twists out of its butthole in the last 3 minutes of the game that the already confusing plot has become incomprehensible even to the geniuses of the world. I can go on a whole rant about this, so I'll stop right here and give my final score. This game gets a 5 out of 10 for that bullcrap. Never in my life have I seen a game self-destruct so quickly in the closing minutes of the game. Remember, my overall score is not an average of the 3 scores before that, it's just how I overall feel about the game. And with everything said, it's a 5 out of 10, an average game. So with no need to say, it's not worth buying. Pass on this one. This is Pow3rh0use signing off.